Hello there, and welcome to Sleepy Galaxy Channel. Tonight we are going to sit with a strange and tender little paradox, the kind of thought that sounds frightening if you say it quickly in the daylight, and yet becomes almost soothing if you let it slow all the way down and lie beside you in the dark. The thing that gives us every warm morning, every green leaf, every ripple of light on water. The great steady lamp that has never once failed to rise is also, in the slowest possible way, spending itself, changing, aging, moving through its own long life toward an ending that no hand of ours could ever stop. The sun that keeps us alive is also, across timescales so vast they barely feel real, letting go of itself. And the beautiful secret hidden inside that sentence is that this is not a threat hanging over you tonight. It is one of the most patient, most unhurried, most unbothered processes in all of nature. A story measured not in years or lifetimes, but in billions upon billions of turnings. A thing so slow that it asks absolutely nothing of you. Nothing at all, except perhaps that you rest while it unfolds. So let me tell you where we are going, because it helps to know the shape of the journey before you drift into it. We will wander through 4 wide fields of thought tonight, and you do not need to remember any of them. First, we will sit with the sun as it is right now, the ordinary miracle of a star burning steady above us, and understand, in the plainest, softest terms, what that burning actually is. Then we will follow the long history of how people came to understand the sun, the slow candlelit centuries of watching and wondering, the first careful measurements, the moment humans realized the light on their faces had traveled for minutes across empty space to reach them. Then we will let ourselves be carried outward, drifting through the sun's deep future, the swelling and cooling and quiet transformation that lies unimaginably far ahead. And finally, we will settle into the largest and most comforting reflection of all, the one about scale, about how small and safe and briefly held we are inside something so enormous and so calm. And if any part of tonight brings you a moment of ease, a like or a subscribe helps the channel reach others who are also lying awake in the dark. Others who are looking for something to hold their thoughts still until morning. But that is all it is. A small kindness you can offer whenever you like. And none of it is anything you need to hold on to now. So let the shape of all that go, gently, like setting down a bag you have carried all day. You do not need to follow the science. You do not need to keep the thread. You do not need to arrive anywhere. Settle in. Let your shoulders ease down away from your ears. Let the weight of your head sink fully into whatever is holding it. Let your jaw loosen. Let your hands lie open. Let the long breath you have been half holding all day finally leave you. There is nowhere to be tonight but here, and here asks nothing of you. Let's begin. Let us start with the simplest thing, the sun as it is in this very moment, hanging in its place while you lie in yours. It is a ball of gas so large that it holds more than 99% of all the material in the entire solar system, every planet and moon and drifting rock and speck of dust combined making up only the thinnest crumb of what is left over. If you could somehow gather up the earth and pour it into the sun, you would need well over 1,000,000 Earths to fill it, poured in one after another like grains into a vast bowl, and still it would not overflow. And yet, from where you lie, it is only a warm coin of light, a thing small enough to hide behind your thumb. This is the first hushed truth of the sky, that the enormous can look modest, that the overwhelming can arrive softly, that the most powerful thing in your world can touch your closed eyelids as nothing more than a faint warmth. What is happening inside that great sphere is, at heart, a slow and steady leaning together. The sun is so massive that its own weight pulls forever inward, every part of it pressing down toward the center, and at that center the pressure and the heat become so extreme that the smallest pieces of matter, the little hearts of hydrogen atoms, are pushed close enough to merge. When they merge, they release a whisper of energy, and there are so many of them merging, so ceaselessly and in such uncountable numbers, that the whispers add together into the light that crosses the void and lands on your face. This is what a star is. Not a fire in the way a candle is a fire, not something burning up like a log in a hearth, but a vast and balanced act of pressing together. Gravity leaning in, energy pushing out, the two held in an equilibrium so stable that it can last for the better part of 10 billion years without wavering. Think of that steadiness for a moment, not as violence but as poise. A thing so evenly balanced that it barely changes across an age that would swallow every civilization 1,000 times over. That is the sun above you. That is the lamp that is keeping the night from being total. It is not straining. It is not struggling. It is simply leaning and giving and holding, and it has been doing so with the same quiet constancy since long before the first living thing opened toward its light. And here I want to give you the thread we will follow all through this night, the one image to keep loosely in mind while everything else drifts past. Picture the sun as a single, unimaginably long exhale. Not a flame, not an explosion, but a breath, a slow and enormous letting go that began billions of years ago and will continue for billions more. Every particle of light that reaches you is a small part of that exhale. A little of the star's held breath, leaving it and traveling out into the dark. And because the breath is so long, so patient, so unhurried, it never feels like loss. It feels like a tide. The kind that comes in and goes out along a shore so slowly that you could sleep through the whole turning of it and wake to find the water has moved without ever once disturbing you. Hold that lightly. The sun is breathing out across all of time, and you are simply resting in the warmth of that breath. There is nothing in it to fear. There is only something to lean back into. Now let us drift back in time a little, into the long history of how our kind came to understand this breathing thing above us, because it is a tender story and a slow one, and it will carry you along without ever asking you to hurry. For almost the whole of human existence, nobody knew what the sun was. They only knew that it came and that it went, and that everything depended on it. The earliest people watched it rise over the same hills every morning and set behind the same horizon every evening, and they built their whole sense of time around its faithful returning. They marked the days by its height. They marked the year by the slow sliding of where it rose along the edge of the world, further one way through the cold months, further back through the warm ones, a great patient pendulum swinging across the seasons. They did not need to understand it to love it, and they did not need to explain it to trust it, and there is something restful in that, in the thought of all those countless mornings when the sun was simply a warm and welcome mystery, watched by tired eyes much like yours, and asked for nothing but its return. Slowly, over uncounted generations, people began to measure. They noticed that the shadow of an upright stick grew long and then short, and then long again through the day, and that if they watched carefully, the shortest shadow always fell at the same moment. And they learned to call that moment noon. They noticed that the length of the shortest shadow changed through the year, and from that alone, with nothing but a stick and patience and the willingness to watch for a very long time, they began to sense that the world was round, and that the sun stood at different heights depending on where upon that roundness you happened to be standing. Imagine the quietness of that kind of knowing, the years of simply looking. The slow accumulation of small observations passed from one watcher to the next. No instruments, no hurry, only the sun and the shadow and the turning of the days. Long before anyone could say what the sun was made of, people had measured its path across the sky with a tenderness and a care that we can still feel across the centuries. There were those who dared, very early, to guess at the distances. One thinker in the ancient world, working only with shadows and angles and the geometry of the moon slipping into the Earth's shadow, reasoned his way toward the idea that the sun was far larger than the Earth and much further away than anyone had imagined, and though his numbers were not right, the courage of the thought was extraordinary. The willingness to look up at that small warm coin and conclude that it was in truth a giant, held at an enormous remove, only seeming small because of the vastness of the gulf between. And there were those, even then, who whispered the almost unbelievable idea that perhaps it was not the sun that moved around the Earth at all, but the Earth that moved around the sun, a thought so far ahead of its time that it was set aside and half forgotten for the better part of 2,000 years, waiting patiently in the dark like a seed, until the world was ready to let it grow. When it did grow, it changed everything, and it changed it slowly, the way a tide changes a shoreline. Careful watchers with the first small telescopes turned their lenses toward the sun, always with great care, and they saw that its surface was not perfectly smooth and unblemished as everyone had assumed, but marked here and there with darker patches, spots that drifted across its face and slowly changed, appearing and fading over days and weeks. By watching those spots move, people realized that the sun itself was turning, rotating slowly on its own axis, just as the Earth does, a great sphere quietly spinning in place. Think of that revelation arriving in some cold observatory by candlelight, the slow dawning understanding that the sun was not a fixed and finished lamp, but a living, turning, changing body, with weather of its own and a rhythm of its own, breathing and stirring far above the small concerns of the watchers below. For a long time after that, the deepest question remained unanswered, and it was a simple one to ask and an impossible one to solve. What keeps it burning? People could see how much light and warmth the sun poured out, endlessly, day after day, and they could not imagine any fuel that would last. If the sun were made of coal, the finest and purest coal, burning as brightly as it does, it would have consumed itself entirely in only a few thousand years, and the sun was plainly far older than that. This puzzle troubled the finest minds for generations. Some supposed the sun was slowly shrinking, and that the very act of its own collapse squeezed out the heat. And that idea, though wrong, at least gave it a life of some millions of years. But the earth beneath their feet was telling a different story, written in the slow laying down of rock and the patient carving of valleys, a story that spoke of not millions, but billions of years, and no ordinary fire could ever burn that long. The answer, when it finally came, was stranger and more beautiful than any of them had dreamed, and it is the same answer we touched on before. The leaning together of the smallest pieces of matter, the merging of the little hearts of atoms deep in the crushing heat of the core. The sun does not burn, it transforms. And in transforming, it can shine for 10,000 million years without faltering. a source so deep and so patient that all of recorded human history is only the faintest flicker at the very start of it. I want you to rest for a moment in the size of that patience. Everything you have ever worried about, every deadline, every hurried morning, every long night much like this one, has happened inside a span so brief that the sun would scarcely notice it. A single held moment within an exhale that stretches across 10 billion years. Whatever weight you are carrying tonight is being carried beneath a light that has shone steadily through the entire history of life on Earth, through every creature that has ever lived and rested and closed its eyes, and it will go on shining, unbothered and unhurried, long after tonight has faded into the softest of memories. There is a deep comfort in being small beneath something so enduring. You do not have to hold anything up. It is already held. Let us stay a little longer with the light itself, with the actual journey of a single ray, because it is one of the loveliest slow facts in all of science. The energy that becomes sunlight is born in the deepest center of the sun, in that crushing core where the atoms lean together and merge. But it does not simply fly out. The inside of the sun is so dense, so tightly packed, that a single parcel of that energy cannot travel in a straight line for more than the tiniest distance before it collides with something and is absorbed, and then released again in some new direction, and absorbed again, and released again, bouncing and stumbling and wandering, taking a path so tangled and so aimless that it can spend tens of thousands of years, some say 100,000 and more, just working its way from the center to the surface. The light that warmed you this morning may have begun its life in the heart of the sun before the first human ever walked upright. A patience so profound, it is almost past believing. A slow seeping outward through layer after glowing layer, until at last it reaches the surface and leaps free. And once it is free, it crosses the great emptiness between the sun and the earth in only about 8 minutes. A straight and effortless flight after all that wandering. 93 million miles covered in the time it takes to settle into a comfortable position and let your breathing slow. So when you feel the warmth of a sunbeam, you are feeling something with two very different ages at once. The journey through space is fresh, only minutes old. But the energy inside it is ancient beyond reckoning, having spent longer escaping the sun than our whole species has existed. There is a tender wonder in holding both of those truths together, the young light and the old energy, arriving on your skin in the same faint warmth, neither one hurried, both of them simply completing a journey that began so very long ago and asks nothing of you now but to be received. I would like now to let you be carried for a while. Let the facts loosen and float off, and instead simply imagine. Imagine that you are lying not in your bed, but on the warm deck of a small wooden boat, drifting on a wide and untroubled sea, far from any shore, with nothing above you but the open sky. The water beneath you is deep and calm, and it lifts you and lowers you so slowly that you can barely tell it is moving at all, only a long, easy rising and a long, easy falling, the boat rocking in a rhythm older than any lullaby. And the sun is warm on you, not fierce, not glaring, but a soft and golden warmth that soaks into your chest and your arms and the backs of your hands, loosening every muscle it touches, dissolving every knot of tension it finds. You are not steering. You are not paddling. There is nowhere the boat needs to go, and no time it needs to arrive. You are simply being carried, held up by the whole vast patient body of the sea, warmed by the whole vast patient breath of the star, and there is nothing at all for you to do but let it hold you. Feel how the light comes down through all those miles of empty space and lands on you so tenderly, having traveled so far, having waited so long, only to rest at last upon your resting body. Feel the way the boat and the water and the warmth all move together in one slow, unhurried swaying, in and out, and in and out, the tide that asks nothing, the breath that takes nothing, the sea that will hold you whether you are awake or asleep, whether you are watching or drifting, whether you remember any of this in the morning or let it all slip away like water off the side of the boat. You are being carried. You have always, in a way, been carried, held up by the ground beneath you and the light above you and the long, slow turning of a world that has never once dropped you. Let yourself be carried now. Let the boat rock you. Let the warmth pour into you. There is nothing to hold on to, because everything is already holding you. And here is the thread again, woven through the drifting. The warmth you are imagining, the golden weight of it on your chest, is the sun's long exhale reaching you. It is the tide of the star, moving out across the dark, so slow and so vast that a single wave of it takes 100,000 years to leave the core and 8 minutes more to cross to you. You are floating on one sea and warmed by another, and both of them move in the same unhurried rhythm, in and out, giving and giving, never straining, never taking. The sun is breathing out over you as you rest on the water, and you can let your own breath fall into step with it if you like, a long breath in and a longer breath out, matching the tide, matching the star, letting each exhale of your own be a small echo of that enormous one that has been going on for billions of years and will go on for billions more. Now let us return softly to the great slow story and follow the sun forward into its future, because this is where the tender paradox of tonight truly lives. The sun is not eternal, and in the deepest heart of it, a change is very quietly underway, so gradual that it is almost the definition of gradual. Deep in the core, hydrogen is merging into helium, and has been for 4.5 billion years, and with each passing age, a little more of the hydrogen is spent, and a little more helium gathers at the center, denser and heavier than what came before. And as that helium collects, the core must lean in a little harder to keep its balance, must grow a little hotter, must burn a little brighter to hold itself up against its own weight. And so the sun, across enormous spans of time, is slowly, imperceptibly growing more luminous. It is a change so slow that across a whole human lifetime it is utterly undetectable, a brightening measured not in years but in hundreds of millions of years. And yet it is real, and it is steady, and it is the quiet truth folded inside the title of tonight's story. Let us sit with that brightening, and let us do it without a flicker of alarm, because the timescale itself is a kind of blanket. When people say that the sun is slowly killing us, what they mean, in the plainest terms, is this. As the sun grows gradually more luminous, the earth receives a little more warmth with each passing age, and over a span of hundreds of millions of years, that added warmth will slowly shift the balance of our world. Far, far in the future, so distant that the number itself softens into unreality, the seas that cover our planet may begin to warm beyond what life as we know it can easily bear. But sit with the size of that distance for a moment. We are not talking about tomorrow, or next year, or the next 1,000 years, or even the next million. We are talking about a change that unfolds across a span longer than the entire history of complex life on Earth so far. Every animal that has ever lived, every forest that has ever grown, every ocean that has ever held a tide has done so within a window shorter than the time this slow brightening will take to matter. It is a horizon so far away that from where you lie tonight, it is not a cliff edge at all. It is simply the shape of the land, seen from so great a distance that it looks like nothing more than the softest curve against the sky. And so the "we can't stop it" of the title, which sounds so heavy when you first hear it, becomes on closer looking one of the most restful phrases imaginable. There are so many things in a single day that we feel we must fix, must manage, must hold together with our own tired hands. So many small emergencies that press on us and demand that we act. But this, the great slow leaning of the star, is not one of them. It is entirely, completely, absolutely outside the reach of our worry, and that means it is also outside the reach of our responsibility. You do not have to do anything about the sun. You could not if you tried, and the trying is not asked of you. There is a peace in that particular kind of powerlessness, the peace of a thing so far beyond you that your only role is to witness it, and rest beneath it, and let it be exactly what it is. Some things are ours to carry. This is not one of them. Set it down. It was never in your hands to begin with. Now let us drift further still, into the deeper future, into the age when the sun's core will at last finish spending its hydrogen. This lies some 5 billion years ahead, a span so long that the Earth has not yet lived even half of it. When that time comes, the core, its hydrogen exhausted, will begin to contract, and as it contracts it will grow hotter, and the outer layers of the sun, responding to that new heat, will begin to swell. Slowly, over long ages, the sun will expand, growing larger and larger, its surface cooling as it stretches, its color deepening from white gold toward a soft and ember-like red. It will become what astronomers call a red giant, a vast and swollen and gentle-looking star, glowing with a deeper, warmer hue, swelling outward until it may reach across the space where the innermost planets now orbit. Picture it not as a catastrophe, but as a great, slow blooming, a flower opening across 1 billion years, the star reaching outward in its old age, the way an old tree spreads its branches wider and lower toward the ground, more tender in its enormity than it ever was in its bright youth. There is something almost beautiful in the idea of the sun growing gentler in color as it grows in size, trading the fierce white brilliance of its middle age for the deep and restful red of its final blooming. Red light is the softest light, the light of embers and of sunsets, the light that comes at the end of the day when everything is winding down toward sleep. And so the sun, in its unimaginably distant old age, will glow with exactly the color that human eyes have always found most soothing, the color of the last warmth in a hearth, the color of the sky just before the stars come out. It will be larger and slower and redder, and it will still be doing what it has always done, leaning and giving and holding, only now more gently, more deeply, more like a long exhale reaching its softest and most drawn-out phase. The tide of the star, coming in at last to its quietest turning. I know that some of these words, red giant and expansion and the swelling of a star, can carry a shiver of the ominous if you let them, and so I want to keep translating them back into what they truly are on the timescale of a resting mind. None of this is fast. None of this is violent in any way you could ever feel. A star does not swell the way a wave crashes. It swells the way a shadow lengthens across a floor through a long afternoon, so slowly that you can watch it for an hour and never once see it move, and yet by evening it has crossed the whole room. Every dramatic-sounding thing the sun will ever do, it will do across spans so vast that within any single moment, any single day, any single human life, it would appear to be doing nothing at all, holding perfectly still, unchanged and unchanging, a steady lamp above a quiet world. The drama is real, but it is spread so thin across so much time that it becomes, from where you lie, indistinguishable from perfect peace. Let us follow the story to its very end, all the way to the sun's final and most peaceful transformation, because it is not the ending you might expect, and there is deep comfort waiting there. After the long red giant age, after the swelling and the deepening color, the sun will not explode. It is not massive enough for that kind of violent finish, and this is a mercy written into its very size. Instead, in its old age, it will begin to let go of its outer layers, releasing them softly into space, one shell of glowing gas after another drifting outward like breath, fogging on a cold window, and then slowly fading. These released layers will spread out into a vast and delicate cloud, glowing in the faint light of the star's exposed core, forming one of the most beautiful objects in all the sky, a great luminous shell of color hanging in the dark, rings and veils and petals of soft light expanding outward across the ages. Astronomers, through an old and slightly mistaken habit of naming, call these objects planetary nebulae, though they have nothing to do with planets, and if you have ever seen a photograph of one, you know that they look like nothing so much as enormous, glowing flowers set against the black, or like a soul exhaled slowly into the light, and that is what it truly is, in the language of our thread. The planetary nebula is the sun's final exhale, the last and slowest breath of all, the outermost layers released so gently that they take tens of thousands of years to drift away, glowing the whole time, coloring the dark with rose and green and pale blue as they go. The star that spent 10 billion years breathing out its light will end by breathing out its very body, softly, without pain, without violence, letting the wind of its own faint radiance carry its outer self away into the great calm of space. There is no crash. There is no scream. There is only a long, luminous letting go, the most peaceful ending that a thing so vast could possibly have, a slow unclenching of everything it ever held. And what remains at the center, when the last layers have drifted away, is small and dense and quiet. The exposed core of the sun will settle into a tiny, brilliant ember called a white dwarf, a thing about the size of the Earth, but holding much of the sun's remaining mass, so tightly packed that a single spoonful of it would weigh more than you could ever lift. And this ember will do the most restful thing of all. It will simply cool. Having no more fuel to merge, no more fire to keep, it will glow with its stored warmth for an almost unthinkable span of time, dimming so slowly, so patiently, across so many billions of years, that the cooling itself is a kind of eternal rest. It will fade from white to yellow to a deep and quiet red, and then, across a stretch of time, longer than the current age of the entire universe, it will fade toward darkness, cooling like the last coal in a hearth on a winter night, cooling the way you are cooling now as you lie still and let the warmth of the day settle out of you and into the calm of sleep. That is the true end of the sun. Not a bang, not a terror. A slow, warm, patient cooling into peaceful dark, so unhurried that the word ending hardly seems to fit it at all. I want you to notice how the frightening version of this story and the restful version are made of exactly the same facts. The sun is aging. The sun is brightening. The sun will one day swell and shed its layers and cool into a quiet ember. Every word of that is true, and you could tell it as a horror, or you could tell it as a lullaby, and nothing in the facts would need to change, only the pace at which you let yourself feel them. Told quickly, in the anxious rhythm of the daylight, it sounds like a threat. Told slowly, in the long, calm rhythm of the night, spread out across the billions of years it truly occupies, it becomes the most soothing story imaginable, the story of a great and gentle thing living out a long and peaceful life and coming, at the very end, to a soft and dreamless rest. You get to choose the pace. And here, tonight, in the dark, there is no reason at all to hurry it. Let us pull back now and let ourselves rest in the largest reflection of all, the one about scale, because this is where all the fear finally dissolves into something like tenderness. When you hear that the sun will change in 5 billion years, that number is almost meaningless to the feeling part of the mind, and so, let me try to make it soft and real. If you took the entire history of the Earth, all 4.5 billion years of it, and imagined it as a single day, a single 24 hours from midnight to midnight, then all of recorded human history, every empire, every song, every war, every love story ever written down, would fit into the last fraction of the very last second before midnight. And the changes we have been speaking of, the swelling of the sun, its final blooming, lie a whole second day beyond that, another 24 hours of deep time stretching out past the end of everything that has happened so far. You live in a flicker. You live in the briefest imaginable spark of warmth in an ocean of calm time. And rather than making you feel small in a frightening way, I hope you can feel how safe that makes you, how gently held. Because here is the thing about being small inside something vast. A child asleep in a great house does not lie awake worrying about the size of the house. The largeness of it is exactly what makes the child feel safe. The sense of solid walls stretching far out in every direction, of rooms upon rooms of quiet, holding the small warm bed at the center. That is what the vastness of time can be for you tonight, if you let it. All those billions of years before you were born, in which the sun shone steadily and the earth turned faithfully, and everything arranged itself so that one day you could exist. Those years are like the far rooms of the great house, dark and calm and holding you at the center. And all the billions of years still to come, in which the sun will slowly change and bloom and cool. Those are the rooms on the other side, equally vast, equally calm, stretching out past anything you could ever need to think about. You are not perched at the edge of a cliff. You are lying at the center of an enormous, quiet house, in the one warm room where the light is soft, and all around you, in every direction of time, there is nothing but a long and peaceful stillness holding you close. And within that great house of time, consider how astonishingly, how tenderly, everything has been arranged so that you could simply be warm tonight. The earth sits at just the right distance from the sun, close enough that the light arrives as gentle warmth rather than distant cold, far enough that it arrives as a faint glow rather than a scorching glare, held in an orbit so steady that the seasons turn like clockwork and the years come round again and again without fail. The atmosphere wraps the whole world in a thin blue veil that catches the sunlight and spreads it into the tranquil blue of the daytime sky and the deep rose of the evening. The oceans drink in the warmth and carry it slowly around the globe, so that no place stays too hot or too cold for long. Every one of these things had to be just so for you to lie here in comfort, and every one of them is quietly, faithfully holding, without your asking, without your effort, without your ever having to think about it at all. You are the beneficiary of an enormous and unbroken kindness extended by a star and a planet and an ocean of air, all of them leaning together to keep one small resting body warm. Let us return for a while to the surface of the sun itself and to the things that happen there, because even the sun's most energetic moments can be reframed into something restful when you understand their true scale and distance. The surface of the sun is not smooth and still. It churns and boils, though in a slow and stately way, great cells of hot gas rising up from below, spreading out at the top, cooling and sinking back down, over and over, so that the whole surface has a texture like a vast field of golden grain rippling in a wind. This churning is called granulation, and each of those grains, each of those rising cells, is itself larger than an entire country here on Earth, and yet from a distance the whole surface simply glows as one smooth and steady light. The sun is in constant motion, forever turning over, forever circulating. And yet the light it gives is so even and so reliable that no eye on Earth could ever tell that anything beneath it was moving at all. There is a lesson in that, softly offered, that a thing can be full of ceaseless motion at its heart and still present nothing but calm and steadiness to the world outside. You yourself are full of motion right now, the slow beat of your heart, the tide of your breath, the quiet work of 1,000 small processes keeping you alive, and yet outwardly you are perfectly still, perfectly at rest. A calm surface over a warm and living depth. Sometimes the sun releases a sudden flare, a bright flash of energy leaping from its surface, or sends out a great cloud of its own material drifting across space. And these events, when they reach the Earth, can paint the night skies near the poles with curtains of shifting color, the auroras, green and violet and rose, rippling silently across the darkness like slow banners in a wind you cannot feel. Even the sun's outbursts, its most dramatic exhalations, arrive at our world softened and transformed, no longer fierce but simply beautiful, no longer a danger but a display, hung across the far northern and southern skies for anyone patient enough to look up on a dark, cold night. The atmosphere catches even the wildest of the sun's breath and spins it into something to marvel at, so that what leaves the star as violence arrives at the Earth as a slow and colored light, dancing overhead while the world beneath it sleeps. This too is the sun exhaling, and this too is the Earth turning that exhale into something to soothe rather than to fear. Let us think for a while about how the sun came to be at all, because its birth is as slow and as tender as its ending, and understanding where it came from can settle the mind the way knowing the beginning of a long story settles a listener. Long before there was a sun, there was a great cloud, an enormous drifting cloud of gas and dust hanging in the dark between the stars, cold and thin and impossibly vast, spread across a distance that light itself would take years to cross. For ages beyond counting, this cloud simply drifted, going nowhere, doing nothing, a slow and formless calm. And then, so gradually that no single moment could be called the beginning, the cloud began to draw together. Perhaps the tremor of a distant star's death gave it the faintest nudge, and gravity, that patient and tireless leaning, did the rest, pulling the thin gas slowly inward, gathering it, concentrating it, over hundreds of thousands of years, into a denser and denser knot at the center. And as the center grew denser, it grew warmer, and as it grew warmer, it began, at long last, to glow. And one day, in the deep quiet of that gathering cloud, The pressure and the heat at the very heart of it reached the threshold where atoms could lean together and merge, and the sun drew its first breath and began the long exhale that continues to this very night. Think of that slow gathering, that patient coming together of a formless cloud into a living star, and think of how much like falling asleep it is. You too, at the end of a scattered day, with your thoughts drifting and formless and spread thin across 100 small concerns, begin slowly to draw inward, to gather yourself, to let the scattered pieces settle and concentrate and grow quiet and warm, until at last you cross some soft threshold you can never quite feel arriving, and you are asleep. The sun was born the way you fall asleep, by a slow and gentle gathering of the scattered into the still, by the patient leaning of everything toward a warm and quiet center. And the leftover material from that gathering, the dust and gas that did not fall into the sun, drifted and clumped and slowly rounded itself into the planets, into the earth, into the very atoms that make up your resting body. You are made of the leftovers of that ancient gathering. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the breath in your chest, all of it was forged in stars and scattered into that cloud and gathered up again into the world and into you. You are not separate from this story. You are the story, briefly awake, and now softly returning to rest. Let us stay a moment with that idea that you are made of star material, because it is true in the most literal and unsentimental way, and it is one of the most quietly comforting facts that science has ever uncovered. Almost every atom in your body heavier than the lightest few was made inside a star, cooked in the deep hot cores of suns that lived and died long before our own sun was born, then scattered out across space when those older stars reached their own soft endings, drifting for ages until they gathered into the cloud that became our sun and our world, and, in time, you. When you rest your hand on your own chest and feel it rise and fall, you are feeling star material moving with your breath. When you feel the warmth of your own body under the blankets, you are feeling the slow release of energy by atoms that were forged in ancient light. You are not a stranger to the sun. You are its distant kin, made of the same kind of stuff, warmed by its light on the outside and carrying the memory of older stars on the inside. A small and temporary gathering of the universe's oldest material, briefly holding together in the shape of someone who is tired and safe and ready to rest. And so when we speak of the sun slowly changing, slowly aging, slowly moving through its long life, we are not speaking of something alien and far away and threatening. We are speaking of an elder in the family, a great old relative whose life is measured in ages rather than years, whose slow changes are simply the natural unfolding of a very long and very peaceful existence. There is nothing frightening in the aging of an elder who is loved. There is only a kind of tenderness, a gratitude for the warmth they have given across all their long years, and a quiet peace in knowing that their ending, when at last it comes across the unthinkable distances of time, will be soft and slow and full of light. The sun is family. The sun is the eldest of all our family, and it is aging the way the eldest ages, without haste, without fear, held in the same great house of time that holds us all. Let us return once more to the history of how we came to know these things, because there is a particular chapter in it that is worth resting inside. The slow unraveling of what the sun is actually made of. For the longest time, this seemed like a question that could never be answered. The sun was so far away, so untouchable, so impossible to reach or sample, that many thoughtful people believed we would simply never know its composition, that it would remain forever a mystery beyond the edge of knowledge. And yet, the answer arrived, not by traveling to the sun, but by looking very carefully at its light. When you pass sunlight through a prism, or through a fine instrument that spreads it out into all its colors, you find that the smooth band of the rainbow is crossed here and there by thin, dark lines, tiny gaps where certain colors are missing. And it turns out that each kind of atom, each element, absorbs its own particular set of colors, leaving its own particular pattern of dark lines, like a signature, like a fingerprint written into the light. By reading those lines, patient watchers learned to name the very substances burning in the sun without ever leaving the surface of the earth, reading the composition of a star from 93 million miles away by nothing more than the shadows in its colors. And in doing so, they discovered something wonderful. One of the elements they found in the sun's light was one they had never seen on Earth at all, a substance revealed first in the sun and only later found here below, and so they named it after the sun itself, from the old word for the sun, and called it helium, the sun's own element, the second most common substance in the entire universe, discovered by reading the dark lines in a beam of morning light. Think of the patience and the wonder of that, of sitting in a darkened room with a prism and a beam of sunlight, carefully mapping the tiny gaps in the colors, and slowly realizing that you are reading the recipe of a star, and finding within it something no one on Earth had ever touched. All of that knowledge, all of that reaching across the impossible distance, done gently, done by looking, done by the simple willingness to study the light that falls on us all every single day, and to ask, with patience, what it might be trying to tell. There is a deep restfulness in the thought that the sun has been quietly telling us everything about itself all along, in the light it pours down so freely, and that all we ever had to do was learn to listen. Every sunbeam that has ever fallen on a windowsill, every shaft of light through a forest canopy, every warm patch on a wooden floor in the afternoon has carried within it the full signature of the star, the whole recipe, the complete and honest account of what the sun is made of and how it lives. It was never hidden. It was only waiting to be read. And now, when you feel the sun on your face, you can know that you are being touched by something that has already told us its whole story, freely and without reserve, a great open book of light that asks nothing in return for all that it reveals. The sun keeps no secrets. It simply shines, and in shining tells us everything, and warms us while it does. Let us drift back out now into the wider family of the sun, the other stars scattered across the night sky, because it soothes the mind to know that our sun is not alone, and not unusual, and not in any way singled out for its slow fate. When you look up on a clear, dark night and see the stars, you are looking at other suns, some smaller than ours, some far larger, some younger, some much older, each one going through its own version of the same long story, each one leaning together at its core, each one exhaling its own light across the dark. The sky is full of siblings. Every point of light up there is a star living out the same kind of life our sun is living, being born from a cloud, shining steadily for ages, and one day, in its own slow time, swelling and cooling and letting go. The whole sky is a great family of exhaling stars, some near the beginning of their breath, some near the end, all of them part of the same vast and patient rhythm that has been going on since the universe was young. And knowing that our sun is ordinary, that its life and its slow ending are simply what stars like it always do, takes away the last edge of any fear. There is nothing wrong with our sun. Nothing has gone amiss. It is not sick. It is not failing. It is not falling toward some special doom. It is doing exactly, precisely, faithfully what a star of its kind is meant to do, following the same long and peaceful arc that countless billions of stars before it have followed, and countless billions after it will follow. Its slow changing is not a flaw but a nature, not a threat but a rhythm, as natural and as unalarming as the turning of the seasons or the falling of leaves or the slow graying of a much-loved head. Everything is proceeding exactly as it should. Everything is unfolding at exactly the pace it is meant to unfold. And you are simply here, for a little while, warm beneath one ordinary and faithful star among the countless billions, held in the same rhythm that holds them all. Let me carry you somewhere else for a while, back onto the water, back into the drifting, because you have done enough thinking for now, and it is good to simply float. Imagine that the small wooden boat has drifted on through a long golden afternoon and into the beginning of evening, and the sun, that great warm exhale, is sinking now toward the far edge of the sea, growing larger and softer and redder as it goes, exactly as it will one day do across the billions of years. Only tonight it is doing it in a single quiet hour, just for you. The light has turned from gold to amber to a deep and glowing rose, and it lies across the water in a long shimmering path that reaches all the way from the horizon to the side of your boat. A road of soft light laid down just for you across the calm and darkening sea, and the boat rocks slowly in and out, and the water laps against the wood with a sound so faint and so regular that it is almost a breath itself, almost a heartbeat, almost a voice saying rest, and rest, and rest. You do not have to watch the sunset. You can let your eyes close and simply feel it, the warmth fading so slowly from your skin that you cannot tell the moment it changes, the light going from your closed eyelids by the tenderest of degrees, red deepening to violet, deepening to the soft dark blue of the coming night. And as the warmth of the day slips away, it does not leave you cold, because the wood of the boat beneath you has soaked up the whole day's sun and holds it still, radiating it back up into you, so that you are cradled between the cooling air above and the stored warmth below, held exactly at the temperature of comfort, floating in the last of the light. This is what it is to be carried by a star at the end of its day, and at the end of your day, both of you letting the brightness go without grasping, both of you settling toward the same soft dark, both of you breathing out. And above you now, as the last of the sun's light drains from the sky, the stars are coming out, one by one, and then in their thousands, until the whole dome overhead is scattered with faint and distant fires, every one of them a sun, every one of them exhaling, every one of them so unimaginably far away that its light has traveled for years, for hundreds of years, for thousands of years, to arrive at your closed and resting eyes on this small boat on this calm sea. You are floating beneath the entire family of stars, held on the water below and beneath the light above, and there is nothing you need to reach for and nothing you need to name, only the slow rocking of the boat and the faint lapping of the water and the vast quiet company of a sky full of distant, patient, breathing suns. Let them keep their watch over you. Let the boat hold you. Let the water rock you. There is nowhere to go and nothing to do but drift. Let us think now, softly, about warmth itself, about the simple sensation of being warm, because it is the sun's oldest and most constant gift and it deserves a moment of its own. Warmth is the very first comfort any of us ever knew, the warmth of being held before we understood anything at all. And the sun is the great original source of nearly all the warmth this world has ever contained. The heat in a summer afternoon is the sun's. The warmth stored in the wood of a house, in the stone of a wall that has stood in the sun all day, in the sand of a beach that holds the day's heat long after dark, all of it is the sun's warmth, gathered and kept, and slowly released. Even the warmth of a fire is the sun's. For the wood that burns grew by drinking sunlight, storing the energy of long ago summers in its rings, releasing it again as flame. Even the warmth of your own body, in a roundabout and beautiful way, traces back to the sun. For the food that fuels you grew in the sun's light, or ate other things that did, so that the warmth you feel under the blankets right now is, at the root of it, sunlight that fell on a field and became a plant, and became a meal, and became you. You are warm tonight because a star has been shining, and you are, in a quiet and literal sense, made of its warmth. And warmth, the sun's warmth, is one of the great signals the body reads as safe. When you are warm, the deep old animal part of you understands that there is no danger of the cold, that you are sheltered, that you may let down your guard and rest. This is why warmth makes us drowsy, why a warm room, or a warm bath, or a patch of afternoon sun on a chair can pull the eyelids down almost against our will. The sun, across all its billions of years, has been sending out the very signal that tells living things it is safe to sleep, and it is sending it still, stored in the warmth around you now, wrapped around you in the blankets, held in the air of the room, radiating faintly from your own resting body back into itself. You are surrounded by the sun's oldest message, the message that says you are safe and warm, and it is all right to let go. Let that message reach you. Let the warmth do what warmth has always done. Let it draw your eyelids down and loosen your limbs and carry you toward the edge of sleep. Let us return, without any urgency, to the slow science of how the sun holds its balance, because there is something profoundly restful in understanding just how stable it truly is, how deeply unlikely it is to ever startle or surprise. Deep in the core, the merging of atoms releases energy, and that energy pushes outward, and it is exactly that outward push that holds the whole enormous weight of the sun up against the relentless inward pull of its own gravity. Now imagine what would happen if, for some reason, the core were to burn a little faster for a moment. The extra energy would push outward a little harder, and the sun would swell just slightly, and in swelling, the core would spread out and cool a little, and the burning would slow back down. And imagine if the core were to burn a little slower. Then the outward push would ease, and the sun would settle inward just slightly. And in settling, the core would grow denser and hotter, and the burning would speed back up. Do you see the beauty of it? The sun corrects itself. It is not balanced on a knife's edge, ready to tip. It is balanced like a bowl with a marble resting at the bottom, so that any little nudge in any direction is met by a slope that rolls it gently back to the center. This is why the sun is so extraordinarily steady, why it has shone so evenly for so long, why it will not flare up or gutter out, but will simply continue, faithfully, correcting and settling and holding, for billions of years more. There is a lesson folded into that self-correcting balance, offered softly for whatever it is worth to you tonight. The sun does not hold itself steady by straining, by clenching, by force of will. It holds itself steady by yielding, by giving a little when pushed and settling a little when eased, by a constant effortless responsiveness that always returns it to the center without any struggle at all. It is the most stable thing in our sky precisely because it does not resist. And perhaps, as you lie here, you can let your own body find that same kind of stability. Not the rigid stillness of holding yourself in place, but the deep and easy steadiness of yielding, of settling, of letting each breath push you a little and each exhale let you a little further down, always returning, without effort, to the calm center of rest. You do not have to hold yourself still tonight. You only have to let yourself settle, the way the sun settles, finding your balance not by force, but by release. Let us consider, too, the sheer generosity of the sun, the almost incomprehensible abundance of what it gives without cost and without end. In a single second, the sun releases more energy than all of human civilization has used in the whole of its history, and it does this every second, ceaselessly. Pouring out light in every direction into the vast dark, most of it flying off into empty space where no eye will ever catch it, only the smallest sliver ever falling upon the earth. And that tiny sliver, that faint fraction of the sun's output that happens to strike our small world, is enough to warm every ocean, to lift the water into every cloud, to turn every leaf green, to feed every living thing, to power every wind and every wave and every falling drop of rain, and still there is warmth to spare, warmth enough to fall upon your face on a summer morning, warmth enough to store in the wood and the stone and the sand, warmth enough to reach you here, tonight, wherever you are. The sun gives without measuring, without counting, without ever asking whether it is giving too much. It simply shines and shines and shines, and the world grows warm and green and alive in the overflow of a generosity so vast that we receive only the faintest edge of it and are utterly sustained. There is nothing you could ever do to deserve that warmth, and nothing you could ever do to lose it. And that is perhaps the most restful truth of all. The sun does not shine on the deserving and withhold itself from the rest. It does not measure your worth before it warms you. It shines on everyone, on everything, on the just and the unjust, on the striving and the resting, on the ones who have done everything right today and the ones who feel they have done everything wrong, with exactly the same faithful, unconditional warmth. You do not have to earn the sunlight. You have never had to earn it. It falls on you simply because you are here, simply because you exist, simply because you happen to be turned toward it, and it will fall on you again tomorrow, no matter what this day held or failed to hold. There is a rest that comes from being loved without condition, and the sun, in its blind and boundless generosity, has been offering you exactly that kind of love every single day of your life, asking nothing, measuring nothing, simply warming whatever it finds. Let yourself be warmed like that tonight, without earning it, without deserving it, simply because you are here. Let us circle back once more to the title's quiet paradox, now that we have wandered so far and so slowly through the sun's long life. And let us turn it over one final time in the soft light of everything we have gathered. The sun is slowly killing us, the phrase says, and we cannot stop it. And by now I hope you can feel how those words, which sound so sharp in the daylight, have grown almost weightless in the dark. Yes, the sun is slowly changing. And yes, that change will one day, across spans of time, beyond all imagining, make our world different in ways we could not survive. But everything alive is living inside a slow change of exactly this kind. The tide that comes in must go out. The day that dawns must dusk. The breath that is drawn must be released. To be alive at all is to be part of a rhythm that includes an ending, and the wisdom is not to fight that rhythm, which cannot be fought, but to rest inside it, to let it hold you, to trust that a rhythm this vast and this ancient and this faithful knows exactly what it is doing and will carry you as gently as it has carried everything that came before. The sun is not killing us the way a threat kills. It is releasing us the way a tide releases the shore, so slowly, so lovingly, that the releasing and the holding become the same tender motion, indistinguishable, and there is nothing left to fear in either one. And the not being able to stop it, which the anxious mind hears as helplessness, is in truth the deepest permission to rest that anyone could ever be given. There are so few things in a human life that we are truly, completely allowed to set down, so few burdens that are genuinely, entirely not ours to carry. But this one is. The slow turning of a star across billions of years is the one great process in all the universe that you are absolutely, unconditionally free from any responsibility toward. You cannot help it, and you cannot harm it, and you cannot hurry it, and you cannot delay it, and so you are free, wholly and finally free, to simply watch it, to rest beneath it, to let it be the vast and beautiful backdrop against which your own small, warm life plays out its brief and precious hours. That is not helplessness. That is release. That is the lifting of a weight you were never actually holding, and the discovery that beneath all your worry there was only ever this: a warm body in a quiet dark, held up by a patient world, warmed by a patient star, with nothing to do and nowhere to be, and no ending to prevent, only this breath, and then the next, and then the slow, soft drift toward sleep. Let us drift back to the boat one final time, for the night has fully come now on that calm imagined sea, and the water has gone still and dark and glassy, and the whole sky of distant suns is mirrored in it, so that you are floating between two fields of stars, the ones above and the ones reflected below, suspended in the middle of a great sphere of faint and patient light. The boat barely moves now. The water is so calm that the rocking has slowed almost to nothing, only the faintest rising and falling, so slight that it blends into the rising and falling of your own breath, until you can no longer tell whether it is the sea that is breathing, or you, whether it is the boat that is rocking, or your own chest, whether you are floating on the water, or the water is floating in you. And it does not matter. The distinction has softened away, the way all distinctions soften at the edge of sleep, and there is only the one slow rhythm now, the tide and the breath and the star's long exhale, all of them moving together, all of them carrying you, all of them saying, without words, that you are held, that you are safe, that you may let go. Above you and below you and all around you, the stars keep their patient watch, and each one is a sun, and each one is exhaling its light across the dark toward your resting eyes, and the light of some of them left so long ago that the star itself has already finished its long life and drifted into its final soft glowing cloud. And yet its light travels on, arrives, reaches you here on the black glassy water, a warmth sent out from something that has already come to its peaceful rest. Even the light of the dead stars is tender. Even the last exhale of a sun that finished breathing long ago is arriving even now, faint and serene, carrying nothing but peace across the enormous dark. Nothing up there is frightening. Nothing up there is cold in any way that can touch you. It is all light, all warmth, all the long, slow breath of a universe full of patient stars, and you are floating in the very middle of it, rocked by the tide, held by the water, watched over by a sky full of suns, drifting, drifting, drifting towards sleep. Let us think, while you drift, about the 8 minutes of light between the sun and the earth, and about what a strange and lovely delay that is, because it holds a small secret of comfort within it. When you look at the sun or feel its warmth, you are never seeing it as it is now. You are seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago, when that light first left its surface and began its crossing. If the sun were somehow to change in this very instant, you would not know for 8 full minutes, and in that sense the sun you know, the sun that warms your world, is always a sun of the recent past, a memory of light arriving faithfully after its long flight. And there is something restful in that gap, in knowing that the light which reaches you has already completed its journey, that it is already whole and finished and on its way before you ever feel it, that nothing about it can be hurried or changed by you now. It simply arrives, complete, a gift already given, a warmth already sent, traveling the last of its distance while you lie here waiting to receive it. The present you feel is always a little bit of the past, arriving softly, and there is no urgency in it at all, only the calm completion of something that set out long before you needed it. And this is true, in its way, of every light in the night sky, only far more so, for the stars are so distant that their light has traveled not for minutes, but for years, for centuries, for millennia, so that when you look up you are looking not at the sky as it is, but at the sky as it was. A great mosaic of different pasts all arriving at once, the near stars showing you a few years ago, and the far stars showing you the deep ancient history of the galaxy, all of it gathered together into one still dome above your resting head. The night sky is a museum of light, a vast and silent gallery in which every point of light is a message from another time, sent long ago, arriving now, asking nothing, simply glowing. And you are lying beneath all of it, receiving all of it, the accumulated tender light of 1,000 different pasts falling softly on your closed eyes, and there is nothing you need to understand about any of it, only that it is old, and it is calm, and it has traveled very far to reach you, and it means you no harm at all. Let us slow even further now, and let the science thin out, and let there be more silence between the thoughts, because you are close now, close to the edge, and the words matter less than the rhythm of them. The sun is breathing out. It has been breathing out for 4.5 billion years. It will go on breathing out for billions more, in and out, so slow that a single breath of the star takes longer than all of human history. And you are breathing too, here in the dark, in and out, your small breath and the star's enormous one moving in the same direction, both of them letting go, both of them releasing, both of them trusting the rhythm to carry them. There is nothing to hold, there is nothing to keep, there is only the breath, going out, and the warmth, staying close, and the slow, soft settling of a tired body into the quiet it has earned. The tide is going out along the shore, so gently that the water seems not to move at all, only to be a little further away each time you look, retreating across the wet sand without a sound, without a struggle, without the slightest hurry, the way the sun retreats across its billions of years, the way the day retreats into night, the way waking retreats into sleep. And you do not have to follow the tide. You do not have to go out with it. You only have to lie here on the warm shore of your own bed and let it go. Let it draw away. Let the great slow water carry off everything you no longer need to hold. Every worry, every task, every thought that has been circling since the day began, all of it drawn out gently by a tide that asks for nothing and takes only what you are ready to release. And what stays behind, on the warm sand, in the quiet dark, is only you, and your breath and the faint lasting warmth of a patient star, and the deep permission, at last, to rest. Let us wander, while there is still time before sleep, through the strange and comforting idea of how the sun moves, because it is not only turning in place, but traveling, carrying us with it on a journey so vast and so slow that we never feel a moment of it. The sun is not fixed in the sky of the galaxy. It is drifting, sweeping along a great slow circle around the distant center of the Milky Way, and it carries the Earth and all the planets along with it, the whole solar system moving together like a small flock of birds crossing an enormous sky. And this journey is so unimaginably large that a single trip around the galaxy takes the sun something like 230 million years, a span so long that the last time the sun was where it is now in its great orbit, there were creatures walking the Earth that no human eye has ever seen, and the time before that lies deeper still in the unreadable past. We are always traveling, always being carried, always sweeping through the dark on the back of a moving star, and we never feel it, never sense the slightest motion, because everything moves together, smoothly, evenly, without a jolt or a lurch. The way a sleeping passenger feels nothing of the train that carries them softly through the night. Think of that the next time you feel stuck, the next time the day feels heavy and motionless and going nowhere. You are never actually still. Even lying here, perfectly at rest, you are being carried at an enormous speed through the galaxy, wrapped around the center of the Milky Way on the back of the sun, moving further in a single second than you could walk in a day, and yet so smoothly, so evenly, that it feels exactly like rest. Motion and stillness, at this scale, become the same thing. To be carried perfectly is to feel perfectly at rest. And so even your deepest stillness tonight is a kind of travel, a long, smooth gliding through the dark, held on the back of a patient star that is itself gliding through the greater dark, all of it moving, all of it flowing, all of it carrying you somewhere new with every breath, without ever once disturbing your rest. You are going somewhere tonight, even lying still. You are being carried, softly, through a vastness too large to feel, toward a morning that is already on its way. Let us think, too, about the color of the sun, because it holds one last small surprise that settles into peace. We say the sun is yellow, and we draw it yellow, and it looks yellow to us low in a morning or evening sky. But in truth, seen from beyond the softening veil of our atmosphere, the sun is white, a pure and balanced white containing every color at once, all the colors of the rainbow blended together into a single clear light. The yellow and orange and red we sometimes see are gifts of our own air, which scatters away the blue and leaves the warmer colors to reach our eyes, especially when the sun is low, and its light must travel a long slant through the atmosphere to find us. So the sun contains all colors, holds them all together, and pours them all down upon us at once. And it is only our world, our air, our particular way of receiving that light, that paints it in the warm and changing hues we love. Every color you have ever seen came out of that white light. Every green leaf, every blue sky, every red rose, every violet dusk is the sun's single white breath separated into its parts by the world it falls upon. The sun gives all colors at once, freely, and the earth, like a prism, spreads that gift into the whole painted world around you. And so even the colors of your life, the warm ones and the cool ones and all the shades between, are the sun's, borrowed from its white and generous light, and scattered by the air and the water and the leaves into everything you have ever looked upon. The blue of a summer afternoon is the sun's blue, scattered wide across the sky. The gold of an autumn evening is the sun's gold, slanting low through the thick air near the horizon. The low gray of an overcast day is the sun's light too, gentled and diffused through a ceiling of cloud, spread so evenly that it casts no shadow at all. A light without edges, a light for resting. However the sky looks to you tomorrow, whatever color the day arrives in, it will be the sun's single white breath, taken apart and made into the world, given freely, painted across everything, warming and coloring and lighting your small span of the earth without ever asking a thing of you in return. Let us return to the deep future one more time, gently, and look at what will remain of the earth through all these changes, because even here, where the story could turn frightening, there is a strange and settling peace to be found. When the sun swells into its red giant blooming, some 5 billion years from now, the earth may be scorched or swallowed or spared, and no one can say for certain which. But consider the calm truth beneath all those possibilities. By then, the earth will have lived a life longer than everything that has happened upon it so far. An entire second history stretching out beyond our own, with ages and ages of time in which anything might unfold, in which the atoms that once made mountains and oceans and living things will simply be rearranged, again, as they have been rearranged countless times before, from cloud to star to planet to living creature, and back again to the drifting dust between the stars. Nothing is ever truly lost in this great, slow turning. It is only borrowed and held for a while, and then released to be gathered up into something new. The atoms of the earth, whatever becomes of the earth itself, will drift on and join new clouds, and fall one day into new stars, and be born again into new worlds, in an endless patient cycle of gathering and releasing that has no sorrow in it, only transformation, only the ceaseless patient reshaping of the same ancient material into ever new and ever temporary forms. And you are part of that cycle too, in the most literal and unfrightening way. The atoms that make up your resting body have been many things before they were you, and they will be many things after, drawn from the same ancient store of star material that makes up everything, borrowed for the span of a life and then returned, gently, to be gathered into something else. There is nothing to grieve in that, when you look at it slowly, in the dark, with the fear thinned out across the vastness of the time involved. It is simply how everything works, how everything has always worked. The endless, generous lending and returning of the universe's oldest material, of which you are, for this brief, warm while, a small and conscious and temporary gathering. You will be returned, one distant day, as everything is returned, softly, without violence, to the great slow cycle of the stars, and there is a deep peace in belonging to something that large and that patient and that unbroken, in knowing that you were never separate from it and will never truly leave it, only change your form within it, the way the sun will only change its form, the way everything only ever changes its form, drifting on through the long calm turning of the deep. Let us gather ourselves now, softly, toward the close of our long wandering, and let the last of the science settle out of the water and sink to the bottom, leaving only the clear, calm surface of feeling. We have traveled very far tonight, from the warm coin of the sun above us to the crushing patient core within it. From the earliest watchers with their sticks and shadows to the reading of a star's recipe in the dark lines of its light. From the slow gathering of a formless cloud into a living sun to the final soft exhale of a glowing cloud and the long cooling of a quiet ember. We have floated on a calm imagined sea beneath a whole sky of breathing stars, and we have been carried, without ever feeling it, on the back of a moving sun through the vast dark of the galaxy. And through all of it, one thread has held, the image of the sun as a single enormous exhale, a breath so long it takes billions of years, a tide so slow it asks nothing of you, a great patient letting go that is not loss but peace, not ending but rest, not a threat above you but a warmth around you, holding you, always, exactly where you are. Before we come to the very end, let us linger a while longer in a few quiet corners of the sun's story that we have not yet touched, for there is no hurry, and the night is long, and each small wonder is another soft weight settling you further into the bed. Consider the sun's atmosphere, the faint outermost reaches of it that stretch far beyond the bright surface we see. There is a layer out there, called the corona, a vast and tenuous crown of gas that surrounds the sun and reaches out for millions of miles into space, so faint that we can only see it when the moon slips exactly in front of the sun and blocks the blinding disk, leaving the pale silver crown glowing softly all around the black circle. A sight so beautiful that people have traveled to the far corners of the earth just to stand in the moon's shadow for a few minutes and witness it. In that rare and hushed moment, when the day goes briefly dim and the stars come out in the middle of the afternoon and the sun's faint crown shimmers around the dark disk of the moon, people fall silent, and something ancient stirs in them. A sense of standing inside something far larger and older and calmer than themselves. Even the sun's faintest outer breath, the whisper of gas at the very edge of its reach, is beautiful enough to draw a crowd to silence. And out of that corona flows a constant, faint stream of particles, drifting away from the sun in every direction, a slow solar wind that blows softly through the whole solar system, out past all the planets, out toward the distant dark. A breath so thin and so patient that it takes days to reach us and years to reach the outer edges. We are, in a sense, always sitting in the sun's gentle wind, wrapped in the faint outflowing breath of the star, and our own world's magnetic field lifts that wind and parts it and lets it flow around us, shielding us, so that we feel none of it, only now and then. The colored curtains of the auroras, where a little of that wind finds its way down into the high thin air near the poles. The sun breathes out not only light, but a slow soft wind, and the earth stands within it, sheltered, as a small tent stands within a vast and gentle breeze, and we sleep soundly inside our shelter while the wind of the star flows quietly on past us into the deep. Consider, too, how the whole rhythm of life on this world is tuned to the sun, how deeply and unconsciously every living thing keeps time with it. The flowers that open in the morning and close at dusk, the birds that wake with the first light and fall silent as it fades, the tides of sleep and waking in your own body, the slow chemistry that makes you drowsy as the light goes and alert as it returns. All of it set, over countless generations, by the faithful daily coming and going of the sun. Your very tiredness tonight, the heaviness in your eyes, the loosening of your limbs, is the sun's doing, or rather the sun's absence, the ancient signal written into your blood that says when the light is gone, it is time to rest. You are obeying the sun right now, in the deepest and oldest way, letting its withdrawal draw you down into sleep exactly as it has drawn your ancestors down into sleep for 1,000 generations before you. There is a great belonging in that, a great rightness, a sense of taking your proper place in a rhythm far older than yourself, lying down when the light lies down, resting when the world rests, rising in the morning when the warmth returns. You are not fighting the day tonight. You are keeping faith with the oldest rhythm there is. And consider, finally, how the light that made you drowsy is the same light that will wake you. How the sun that is absent now, on the far side of the turning world, is already on its way back to you, already climbing toward the horizon of some distant place, already beginning the slow bright journey that will bring the morning to your window in its own good time. You do not have to do anything to make the morning come. It is coming on its own, carried by the faithful turning of the world, brought back by the same patient star that is warming the other side of the earth right now while you rest in its shadow. The sun has never once failed to return, not in 4.5 billion years, not in all the countless mornings since the first morning, and it will not fail to return tomorrow. So you can let the night be fully night. You can let the darkness be complete. You can let go of the day entirely, holding nothing back for fear the light will not come. Because the light will come, it always comes, it is already coming, and all you have to do until then is rest. Let us drift once more into pure imagining, letting the last facts dissolve, and this time let there be no boat, no sea, only warmth and light, and the slow rising and falling of your own breath. Imagine that you are lying in a wide field of soft grass on a summer afternoon, though it is the kind of afternoon that never quite tips toward evening, a long golden held moment of warmth with nowhere to go. The sun is high and easy above you, its warmth pouring down through the air and settling over you like a blanket you did not have to pull up, and the grass beneath you is warm too, warmed all through the long day, cradling you from below the way the light cradles you from above. There is a faint, warm breeze, so slight it barely stirs the grass, moving over your skin in slow, tender passes, and somewhere far off there is the drowsy sound of insects in the heat, a low and even hum that rises and falls and asks nothing of your attention. You are held between the warm earth and the warm light, in the middle of a golden field, with nothing to do and nowhere to be and all the time in the world. Feel the warmth on your forehead and let your forehead soften. Feel the warmth on your eyes and let your eyes grow heavy. Feel the warmth pooling in the hollow of your throat, spreading across your chest, sinking into your belly, flowing down your arms to the tips of your fingers, and down your legs to the soles of your feet, until every part of you is warm, evenly and completely warm, warmed by the same patient star that warms the whole turning world. There is no edge where you end and the warmth begins. You are dissolving softly into the afternoon, into the light, into the long-held golden moment, and there is nothing left in you that is tense, nothing left that is bracing, nothing left that is holding on. The field holds you, the light holds you, the warmth holds you, and you let it completely, the way the grass lets the wind move through it, the way the earth lets the sunlight fall on it, the way everything warm and living lets itself be warmed without resistance and without effort and without any thought at all. And the sun above you in this endless field is breathing out, slowly, as it always is, pouring its long exhale down upon you, and you are breathing too, Slower now, deeper now, each breath a little longer than the last, each exhale carrying you a little further down into the warm grass, a little deeper into the golden light, a little closer to the soft dark edge of sleep. In and out. The star breathes and you breathe. The tide comes in and the tide goes out. The light falls and the warmth stays. And there is nothing to hold and nothing to keep and nowhere to go and nothing to fear. Only the warmth and the breath and the slow, soft settling of a tired body into the rest it has waited all day to find. Let the field hold you now. Let the light pour down. Let yourself go, softly, into the warm and golden dark. Let us take up, one last time, the deep question of how long all of this will last. And let us hold the numbers not as a burden, but as an enormous wide cushion of time laid down beneath you. The sun is about 4.5 billion years old, and it has about 5 billion years of steady shining still ahead of it before the great changes begin, and even those changes will then unfold across further hundreds of millions and thousands of millions of years, so slowly that no single generation would ever notice them. Lay all of that time out in your mind, if you can, not as a threat approaching, but as a vast plain stretching away in every direction, further than any eye could see. A plain of time so wide that everything you have ever known or feared or hoped for occupies only a single warm footprint at its very center. That is where you are. Not at an edge, not at a brink, at the calm center of an almost endless plain of time, with billions of years of steady warmth stretching out behind you, and billions more stretching out ahead, and you, one small warm resting body, held in the middle of all of it, with nothing pressing on you from any direction but the soft weight of your own tiredness and the gentle warmth of a faithful star. There is no emergency in 5 billion years. There is no emergency in even a single billion, or a single million, or a single thousand. Whatever weighs on you tonight, whatever felt urgent in the noise of the day, lay it down against the size of that plain and watch how small it becomes, how it shrinks to almost nothing against a backdrop so vast, how the great slow patience of the sun makes even your heaviest worry look like a single grain of sand on an endless warm beach. This is what the stars are for. In the end, this is the oldest gift the night sky has ever given to tired and frightened people. The gift of scale, the gift of proportion. The reminder that you are small and safe and briefly held in something so enormous and so calm that all your fears grow quiet in the face of it. Let them grow quiet now. Let the size of the sky do what it has always done. Let the vastness soothe you rather than frighten you, the way it soothes a child who looks up and feels not afraid, but held. And as those fears grow quiet and small against the plane of time, notice how your body has grown quiet too. How the long, slow work of this night has loosened something that was tight, softened something that was braced, let down something that was held. Your breathing has slowed. Your limbs have grown heavy. The distance between one thought and the next has stretched longer and longer, until there is more silence now than thought, more warmth now than worry, more stillness now than motion. You are close to the edge of sleep, that soft threshold you can never quite feel yourself crossing. The same kind of threshold the sun crossed when it first began to shine, the quiet gathering of the scattered into the still. And there is nothing left for you to do now but cross it, in your own time, without effort, without trying, letting the warmth and the breath and the great slow patience of the star carry you the last small distance down into rest. Let us return once more to the very old story of watching. because there is comfort in remembering how many tired people have looked up at this same sun and this same sky before you, and found in them the same quiet company you are finding tonight. Think of the countless keepers of time across the ages, the ones who rose before dawn to watch for the first light, the ones who built great circles of stone aligned to the rising of the sun on the longest and shortest days of the year, so that the light would pour through a single gap and fall on a single spot only once in the whole turning of the seasons. Think of the patience of the people who raised those stones without machines, without hurry, over lifetimes, so that some later generation might stand in exactly the right place and watch the sun return to its mark and know that the year had come round again. They were doing what you are doing now, in their way, taking their small warm place in a rhythm far larger than themselves, keeping faith with the sun, trusting its return, letting its faithful coming and going hold the shape of their lives. You are the latest of a very long line of sun watchers, and every one of them, in the end, lay down at night beneath the same withdrawn light and closed their eyes and slept, trusting the morning, exactly as you are about to do. And think of how the sun looked down on all of them equally, on the stone raisers and the shadow measurers and the prism holders and the reader of the dark lines in the light, on every generation of tired watchers stretching back to the very first, warming them all with the same faithful warmth, asking nothing of any of them, outliving all of them, and shining on, unchanged, into your own small night. The sun that warms you tonight is the very same sun that warmed every human being who has ever lived. The same one. The actual same star, only 8 minutes older in its light than the one they saw, essentially unchanged across the whole span of human time. When you feel its warmth tomorrow, you are being touched by exactly the same source that touched every person in every story you have ever heard, a single unbroken thread of warmth connecting you to everyone who has ever lived beneath it. You are not alone under this sun. You have never been alone under it. You are simply the one holding its warmth now, for a little while before you pass it on. And there is deep company in that, a whole warm human history lying down to sleep beside you beneath the same faithful, patient light. Let us drift down then through the very last of the science, letting it thin to almost nothing, only the softest facts remaining, spaced far apart, more silence than speech. The sun is warm. The sun is old. The sun is faithful. It has shone for longer than there have been eyes to see it, and it will shine for longer than there will be, and its slow changing is nothing to fear, only a tide, only a breath, only the long, peaceful exhale of a great and gentle thing living out its long and gentle life. And you are here beneath it, small and warm and briefly held, made of its old material, warmed by its faithful light, kept in time by its faithful returning, and free, wholly free, of any weight or worry over its enormous, slow unfolding. There is nothing you need to hold. There is nothing you need to keep. There is nothing you need to do. There is only the warmth and the breath and the deep old permission of the night to let go and to rest. Let us rest for a while in one final small wonder before we begin to close. The wonder of just how balanced our whole existence is upon the sun's steady giving, and how that balance, far from being precarious, is one of the most reliable things in all of nature. Every green and growing thing on this earth is quietly gathering the sun's light and folding it into itself, taking the free-falling energy of the star and weaving it into leaf and stem and root, storing it, holding it, passing it along, so that the whole living world is, in a sense, a slow river of captured sunlight flowing from the leaf to the creature that eats the leaf, to the creature that eats that one. All of its sunlight. All of it the sun's long exhale caught and carried through 1,000 living forms. When you eat, you are eating sunlight. When you grow, you are growing sunlight. When you rest and heal in the night, you are spending sunlight, quietly, the stored warmth of the star flowing through you and doing the slow, patient work of keeping you alive. You are lit from within by the sun, as surely as the world is lit from without. A small, warm vessel of gathered starlight, glowing faintly in the dark, being tended by the very light you carry, and that flow has never once stopped. Not for a single day in the whole long history of life, the sun pouring down and the green world catching it, and the river of captured light running on through everything alive, unbroken, uninterrupted, faithful beyond any faithfulness we know how to imagine. Empires have risen and fallen inside that unbroken flow. Ice has come and gone. Continents have drifted and seas have opened and closed. And through all of it, the sun has kept pouring, and the leaves have kept catching, and the river of light has kept running, and it is running still, tonight, through the sleeping fields and the quiet forests and the dark still water. And through you, lying here, spending the day's stored warmth on the slow good work of rest. You are a part of the oldest, steadiest, most faithful flow there is, and it will carry on through the night without any effort from you, tending you while you sleep, keeping you warm and whole and alive on nothing but the patient stored light of a star, so that you may simply let go and drift and trust the flow to hold you exactly as it has held every living thing that ever closed its eyes beneath this faithful sun. Let us pause on one last tender image before we begin to close. The image of the moon, which shines only because the sun shines, giving back to the night a soft borrowed portion of the day's lost light. The moon makes no light of its own. Every pale beam that falls through a window at night, every silver path laid across dark water, every gentle glow that lets you find your way through a sleeping house is sunlight, only sunlight, caught on the moon's gray face and thrown softly back to us long after the sun itself has slipped below the edge of the world. So even in the deepest night, when the sun is far away on the other side of the turning earth, its light still reaches you, softened and cooled and gentled by its long bounce off the moon, a faint and tender echo of the day laid quietly across the dark. The sun does not truly leave you at night. It only steps back and lets the moon hold up a small pale mirror, so that a little of its warmth that is light may keep you soft company until morning. And that borrowed light is the kindest light of all, dim enough for sleeping, faint enough for dreaming, a hushed reminder in the middle of the night that the sun is still there, still shining, still faithful, only turned for a while toward the other half of the world, and already, patiently, on its way back to you. And so, softly now, let us come to the close of our long wandering, and let me gather the whole of it into a few last quiet words for you to carry down into sleep. Tonight has been about the sun, the great faithful lamp above us, and the tender paradox that the very thing which keeps us alive is also, across spans of time too vast to fear, slowly living out its own long life toward a soft and distant ending. Tonight has been about the burning that is not burning, but a leaning together, the slow patient merging of the smallest hearts of matter deep in a crushing calm core. Tonight has been about the long history of watching, the sticks and the shadows, the spots drifting across the sun's turning face, the dark lines in the light that told us, at last, what the sun is made of. Tonight has been about the sun's deep future, the slow brightening, the great red blooming, the final luminous exhale of a glowing cloud, and the long peaceful cooling of a quiet ember into the soft dark. And tonight has been, most of all, about scale, about how small and safe and briefly held you are inside something so enormous and so patient and so calm. And through all of it has run a single thread, the sun as a long, slow exhale, a breath across billions of years, a tide so gentle it asks nothing of you at all. The star is breathing out. The star is breathing out. The star is breathing out, and you are breathing with it, and there is nothing to hold, and nothing to keep, and nowhere to be. You are carried. You are carried. You are carried on the back of a moving sun through a vastness too large to feel, toward a morning already on its way. You are warm. You are warm. You are warm, lit from without by the sun's faithful light, and from within by the stored warmth of the day, glowing faintly in the dark, tended while you sleep. And none of this needs anything from you tonight. The sun does not need you to worry about it. The vast plain of time does not need you to hold up any part of it. The slow turning of the star, the great tide of its long exhale, the whole enormous patient unfolding of the deep, asks nothing of you at all, only that you rest within it, only that you let it hold you, only that you let go of everything you have carried all day and sink down at last into the warm and faithful dark. It is all taken care of. It always was. There is nothing left for you to do. When this quiet exploration comes to its end, there will be another one waiting on the screen. Another slow wandering through the calm and the vast, ready to begin on its own and carry you onward if you are still drifting at the edge of sleep. You do not need to reach for it, or choose it, or do anything at all. Just let it begin on its own, and let its voice become a part of the warm dark around you. Another soft tide to rock you, another long breath to breathe alongside, carrying you deeper still into the night. And if some small part of you is still awake, still floating just above sleep, here is one soft question to hold as you drift, needing no answer tonight, only something to rest your last waking thought upon. When you feel the sun's warmth tomorrow, on your face or your hands or the back of your neck, will you remember that it began its journey to you long, long before you needed it, and traveled so very far, and asked for nothing, and simply arrived? You can let that question float there, unanswered, as the last of your thoughts grow slow and far apart, and finally fall silent. Let your breathing slow now, all the way down. Let the warmth settle over you and through you, from your forehead to the soles of your feet. Let your limbs grow heavy and your jaw grow loose, and your hands lie open and still. Let the great slow tide of the star carry off the very last of the day, drawing it away across the wet sand without a sound, leaving only you and your breath and the faint lasting warmth of a patient and faithful sun. You are small, and you are safe, and you are held in the warm center of something enormous and calm, and there is nothing left to do, and nowhere left to go, and nothing left to fear. The star is breathing out, the tide is going out, and you are drifting, softly, warmly, out into the quiet dark, where the morning is already faithfully on its way. Rest now, let go. Sleep well.